There is a striking paradox on our planet. The vastest places are often the ones we understand the least. Kazakhstan, larger than all of Western Europe combined, the 9th largest country on Earth, remains a blurry void in the Western imagination. But don't let the silence deceive you. In a world drowning in noise, Kazakhstan's emptiness is no absence, it's a commanding presence. With a population density of a mere 7 people per square kilometer, it offers the rare luxury of absolute stillness. Wind whispering across endless steppes, echoes of nomadic empires, and the hum of a future taking shape. This is a land that decodes the paradoxes of human ambition. How does a nation born on horseback and yurt tents host the world's largest spaceport? Why does a place swinging from -40°C to +40°C hold the master key to global energy security, supplying over 40% of the world's uranium? Kazakhstan isn't just a country, it's a masterclass in resilience, where wild nature and relentless conquest live in breathtaking harmony. Have you ever wondered where past and future don't just collide, but coexist in quiet awe? To truly see it, forget the tourist lens. Approach as an explorer, cracking an ancient code. This journey doesn't begin with a map. It starts with a revolution that taught humanity how to ride the wind. Origins, where humanity learned to ride the wind. To understand the soul of Kazakhstan, you have to look beyond the modern steel of its cities and gaze into the amber dust of the northern steppes. Long before the rise of the Roman Empire or the construction of the Great Wall, a silent revolution was brewing here that would shrink the world forever. Roughly 5,500 years ago, in a place now known as the Botai settlement, human history took a definitive leap forward. This wasn't the discovery of fire or the invention of the wheel, but something far more organic and powerful: the domestication of the horse. The archaeological evidence found at Botai is staggering. We aren't just talking about a few stray bones. Researchers have uncovered over 300,000 horse bone fragments. Chemical analysis of ancient pottery shards revealed traces of mare's milk, proving that these early inhabitants weren't just hunting horses. They were milking them, corralling them, and living in a sophisticated symbiosis with them. Think about the gravity of that moment. Before Botai, the horizon was a barrier. After Botai, the horizon became a destination. This was the birth of high-speed travel. This mastery of the horse didn't just change how people moved. It reconfigured the entire geopolitical DNA of Eurasia. Without the Kisi horsemen of the Kazakh steppe, the Silk Road, that ancient highway of ideas, spices, and silk, would have been a physical impossibility. The horse allowed for the rapid transit of information and military might, turning the vast empty plains into a high-speed corridor for empires. It created a unique nomadic psyche, a culture that values movement over possession and freedom over walls. Even today, in an age of fiber optics and supersonic jets, the horse remains the undisputed symbol of the Kazakh national identity. It's etched into their heraldry, their music, and their cuisine. When you see a lone rider silhouetted against a purple sunset on the horizon, you aren't just looking at a pastoral scene. You're looking at a living connection to a 5,000-year-old lineage. These people didn't just survive the steppe, they conquered its vastness by learning to move in sync with the wind. It's a profound lesson in adaptation, a reminder that true power comes from aligning yourself with the forces of nature, rather than trying to pave them over. But as much as the horse defined their past, what lies beneath the hooves of those horses has come to define their modern reality. The wealth beneath the surface, the master key of global security. If the horse was the engine of Kazakhstan's history, then the periodic table is the engine of its future. There is a raw, industrial grit to the Kazakh landscape that most travel brochures tend to gloss over. But to ignore it is to miss the country's true weight on the world stage. Beneath those endless golden plains lies a geological jackpot so immense it feels like science fiction. We're talking about a nation that holds the master key to the world's transition into a new era of energy. Kazakhstan is the undisputed heavyweight champion of uranium production, supplying more than 40% of the world's total output. In a global landscape increasingly obsessed with carbon-free baseload power, this makes Kazakhstan one of the most strategically significant players on the planet. But it doesn't stop at nuclear fuel. From the massive oil fields of the Caspian Basin to some of the world's largest reserves of coal, gold, and rare earth minerals, the country is essentially a massive open-air warehouse of raw materials. However, being the world's gas station and mine comes with a heavy psychological and environmental price. The history of resource extraction here is deeply intertwined with the Soviet legacy, an era where industrial quotas often trumped ecological sanity. You see it in the rusted infrastructure of old mining towns and the lingering environmental scars that the government is now desperately trying to heal. It's a classic American-style struggle, the tension between economic prosperity and the preservation of the land. Logistically, the country faces a challenge that would paralyze most nations. Kazakhstan is the world's largest landlocked country, meaning it has no direct access to the global oceans. Every barrel of oil and every ton of wheat must traverse thousands of miles of rail and pipe through foreign territories to reach a port. This geographic constraint has forced Kazakhstan to become a master of multi-vector diplomacy, playing a delicate balancing act between its giant neighbors, Russia and China, while aggressively courtships Western investment. What would you do if you held the world's most precious resources, but had no doors of your own to ship them out? This locked status hasn't made them insular. It has made them essential. They have turned their land into a bridge, the buckle in China's Belt and Road Initiative, and a critical transit point for European trade. Kazakhstan has mastered the art of being the middleman of Eurasia, proving that geography is only a destiny if you lack the ambition to redraw the map. As we move from the industrial heartland toward the southern borders, the landscape shifts from the grime of the mines to a terrain so surreal it feels like it belongs on a different planet altogether. Alien landscapes, Earth's deep memory written in stone. If you want to feel the true scale of geological time, you have to leave the cities behind and head for the Aktau Mountains in Altyn Emel National Park. This isn't just a mountain range, it's a technicolor graveyard of an ancient ocean. As you walk through these hills, the soil crunches under your boots in shades of vivid red, stark white, and pale blue. These aren't just pretty colors, they are layers of sediment, volcanic ash, and clay that have been compressed over 60 million years. Walking through Aktau is a humbling experience. You are literally stepping on the mummified remains of the Paleogene era. Archaeologists have dug up the fossils of giant tortoises, ancient crocodiles, and primitive rhinoceroses here, creatures that roamed this land when it was a lush, tropical seabed. The wind has carved these hills into twisted, melted shapes that look like something out of a Salvador Dali painting. There are no marked trails, no souvenir stands, and no cell service. It's just you, the silence, and 60 million years of Earth's diary. A few hundred miles to the east, the Earth opens up to reveal the Charon Canyon. While the world fawns over Arizona's Grand Canyon, Charon remains a rugged, untamed secret. Its Valley of Castles features towering orange and red sandstone formations that look like the crumbling battlements of a forgotten civilization. But unlike its American cousin, you won't find guardrails or crowds here. You can stand on the very edge of a 300-meter drop, feeling the raw power of the wind that has been sculpting this rock for 12 million years. There's a deep spiritual resonance to these places. The Kazakhs have always treated their land with a sense of animistic respect. To them, the mountains aren't just rocks, they are living entities with memories. This is perhaps most evident at the sunken forest of Lake Kandy. After an earthquake in 1911 triggered a massive limestone landslide, a natural dam was formed, submerging a grove of Schrenk's spruce trees. Today, the skeletal tops of these trees rise out of the turquoise water, like the masts of ghost ships, while beneath the freezing surface, their needles remain perfectly preserved by the cold. These landscapes serve as a brutal reminder of our own transience. They force you to stop talking and start listening to the deep time of the planet. In Kazakhstan, nature doesn't provide a backdrop for your photos. It demands a confrontation with your own insignificance. But if the wilderness represents the country's ancient soul, then the skyline of its capital represents a frantic, neon-lit leap into the 22nd century. Astana and Almaty, a tale of two cities and one soul. If the canyons and steppes of Kazakhstan represent the country's ancient, unyielding soul, then the skyline of its cities represents a frantic, neon-lit leap into the 22nd century. To travel from Almaty to Astana is to witness a fascinating tug-of-war between the past and the future. A contrast so sharp, it feels like stepping through a temporal portal. It is a masterclass in how a nation attempts to reconcile its nomadic DNA with the cold requirements of a modern superpower. We begin in the south with Almaty, the city of apple trees. For decades, this was the capital, and it remains the undisputed cultural and emotional headquarters of the nation. Almaty doesn't feel like a typical Central Asian city. It possesses the sophisticated, arborescent charm of a European capital tucked at the foot of the massive Trans-Ili Alatau Mountains. Here, the grid-like Soviet boulevards are softened by thousands of trees, and the air carries the crisp scent of mountain pine mixed with roasting coffee. What makes Almaty truly special is its verticality. You can be sipping a high-end espresso in a glass-walled boutique at noon, and by 1 p.m., you can be standing at 3,200 meters at the Shimbulak ski resort, gazing down at the valley below. This extreme proximity to the wild has shaped a unique urban psyche. Almaty's citizens are cosmopolitan and artistic, yet they live in constant conversation with the seasons and the summits. Almaty is where the soul of the country lives. It is a city of jazz festivals, hidden bookstores, and long philosophical conversations held in the shadow of snow-capped peaks. However, once you fly 600 miles north, the atmosphere shifts from poetic to prophetic. This is Astana. In 1997, the government executed a move so audacious it bordered on the surreal. They relocated the capital to a desolate, wind-swept patch of steppe where winter temperatures regularly plummet to minus 40 degrees. Astana is a city built from scratch on a blank canvas, a fever dream of oil wealth and architectural ambition. Walking through the center of Astana feels like being an extra in a big-budget sci-fi epic. The skyline is dominated by the Baytarek Tower, a golden globe cradled in white pillars representing the Tree of Life from Kazakh mythology. Nearby, you'll find the Khan Shatir, the world's largest tent-shaped structure designed by Norman Foster, which houses an indoor beach with sand imported from the Maldives. Astana is a geopolitical statement made of steel and glass. It is Kazakhstan's way of shouting to the world, "We are no longer a satellite. We are a center." It is a 22nd century laboratory designed for grand parades and international summits, where the wind whistles between skyscrapers that defy traditional aesthetics. While Almaty is about where the Kazakhs came from, Astana is about where they are determined to go. It is a bold, cold, and glittering experiment in nation-building. But even in this gleaming laboratory of the future, the ghost of the steppe is never far away. If you look closely at the glass facades of these monoliths, you'll see reflections of the same clouds that the nomadic tribes watched thousands of years ago. It raises a question that every modern Kazakh grapples with. Can a city built entirely by political decree ever truly become a home for the heart? Astana proves that humanity can conquer even the harshest steppe. But there is a fine line between conquering nature and destroying it. To find where that line was crossed, we must travel west, away from the neon lights and toward a place where the earth itself has been broken. The ecological elegy, the ghost of the Aral Sea. No exploration of Kazakhstan is honest without addressing its scars. To see the most painful of these, you have to travel west, to a place where the map tells you there should be water, but your eyes see only salt and rust. This is the Aral Sea, or what's left of it. Perhaps the most staggering man-made environmental disaster of the 20th century. Just 50 years ago, the Aral was the fourth largest inland sea in the world, teeming with fish and supporting vibrant port towns. But a Soviet-era decision to divert the inflowing rivers to irrigate cotton deserts in Uzbekistan effectively choked the sea to death. Today, the water has receded by nearly 100 kilometers in some places. What remains is the Aral Desert, a toxic wasteland of salt and pesticides. The most iconic and heartbreaking images of this region are the ship graveyards, massive fishing trawlers sitting upright in the middle of a desert, miles from the nearest drop of water. They look like skeletons of a civilization that forgot how to respect the earth. The air here is heavy with salt dust, and the local communities, once prosperous fishers, now struggle with respiratory illnesses and a landscape that has betrayed them. However, even here, there is a glimmer of Kazakh resilience. In recent years, the construction of the Kokaral Dam has begun to restore water levels in the North Aral Sea. The fish are returning, and with them, a tiny bit of hope. It's a brutal lesson in the fragility of our planet. We can destroy an ecosystem in a generation, but it takes an agonizing uphill battle to bring even a fraction of it back. The Aral Sea is a reminder that Kazakhstan's emptiness isn't always natural. Sometimes it's a wound we inflicted ourselves. It forces us to ask, at what point does the cost of progress become too high to pay? Conclusion: the legacy of the steppe. As the dust settles on our journey, we are left with a mosaic of impossible contrasts. Kazakhstan is a land that has leapt from the nomadic era to the space age in a single heartbeat. At the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the very soil once trampled by Genghis Khan's cavalry now trembles under the weight of rockets bound for the stars. It is the only place on Earth where the road to the cosmos begins in the saddle of a horse. This land proves that emptiness is where the most profound stories are kept. Kazakhstan doesn't just invite you to visit. It dares you to expand your horizons until they are as limitless as the Kazakh sky. It is a haunting reminder that no matter how fast we run toward the future, we carry the Earth's silence within us. The giant has awakened, proving the world is far more mysterious than we ever dared to imagine.